Hello, this is Wes Bridle, and this is another Kingdom Calling Economic Update video. All these videos are short-term clips on what's been happening recently in the economy. To get the big picture, you really need to watch the Coming Storm video. There's a link to do that for free, and that will give you an idea of what's really happening in the economy. This is just a video to talk about what's been happening over the last 3 months that might imply that some more serious inflation is coming down the road. And some of these are just sort of, tied to that. This first point doesn't necessarily show that, but it's an interesting thing, and I put it in this category. The Federal Reserve promised Congress, I think it was just only a couple of years ago, certainly since 2008, that they would not be bailing out Europe. That Congress was kind of concerned about this based on what we did in 2008. And so recently the Fed promised we would not be doing that. Well, what's our news here in the last couple of months? The Fed's opened unlimited swap lines to Europe to basically bail them out. No one elected the Fed, but they have control over what happens with our money. That's really the most important thing about the economy. The Fed has total control over that, and they're AWOL. They're doing totally what they want to do, what they think is best. I do believe those people are, as far as I know, trying to do what they think is best for the U.S. economy. I just think they're woefully ignorant of the ramifications of it all. And to some degree, they feel like their job and their good name is on the line, and they're willing to take severe risks that we as a people, if we fully understood what's going on, would not be willing to take, because the alternative for them is we go into a massive depression, and they don't want to be in a, that's a sure thing, so they don't want to go into that, so they'd rather gamble it gets much worse. In the hopes, the small hope, the non-existent hope in my mind, that things will get better if they just walk this dangerous line. The recent Fed swap line is an extension of a line which wasn't even fully used, so far it doesn't seem to be a big deal as far as the amount that it's being used. However, it's kind of an emergency switch, so that as these banks are going under, they can all of a sudden, basically on demand, print as many US dollars as they want. So it's a potential huge liability and risk for the United States that the failing Europe can massively print at will as many US dollars as they want. I mean, they say it's sort of, it doesn't matter because they basically print euros on our account there. But if they can never pay back those US dollars, then it doesn't help us at all. It ends up being massive money printing with nothing in return. The recent Fed swap line, let's see, I already talked about that. CPI has grown to levels that formerly the Fed would have fought strongly to lower. And Bernanke himself has talked about numbers, and we've hit those numbers. In World War IV, he said, if we hit those numbers, then we would definitely have to change things. Well, now we've hit those numbers, but now he's changed his tune, and he's wanting higher inflation. It just shows that he's desperate. Foreigners have been dumping treasuries in large quantities in the last few months and years. If you look at the line of a chart, the foreigners are dumping more and more treasuries all the time. We depend on foreigners to buy our treasuries in order to support this massive debt and deficit that we have. The group that's making up the difference is the Federal Reserve. Well, that's fine until the world says, wait a minute, you're just printing your own money on demand, so you're no different from Zimbabwe, and they dump them in large quantities. So far, the world seems very happy with our printing. And recently the dollar's been stronger than it has been in a while. But again, as I said in a former video, if the dollar were truly strong, it would be going much, much higher than it is. So it's sort of going there, even though people don't want to put money in dollars, but they just don't know where else to put it in. But again, when they get concerned, I don't think they continue to put money in dollars just because we feel like that's their only alternative. They'll figure out another alternative. And so as far as the foreigners dumping, we don't know, is China retaliating because we were trying to attack them in the currency wars? Are European people liquidating because they just need to get more cash? It's hard to know for sure, but the line is clear. Foreigner holdings are going down. Big jump in wholesale producer prices shows inflation is indeed in the system. And mine worker union difficulty in Indonesia and Peru could signal more commodity supply difficulties. So some of the largest commodity miners out there having some serious problem with workers in the countries where they're finding this metal. So it's something to watch. If that is something that really grows rampant, it could really restrict supply. Average person has less disposable income in 2008, which was the peak, 32,479 today versus the disposable income of 33,749 in 2008. This 4% drop shows all money printing isn't helping as advertised. So we've printed a massive amount of money, but all that's happened is cost of where they have to put that money have gone up because of all the money printing, but their salaries haven't gone up, and so they're getting squeezed. And so the line that we're getting fed from Washington and New York is not true. It's not helping people, it's hurting people. U.S. Treasury says that they expect to borrow $541 billion in the first quarter of 2012. It's the second highest amount ever, so our deficit isn't going anywhere. It's getting bigger. Cost of Thanksgiving meal was up 13% this year over last year. So again, Bernanke likes to tell us there's no inflation, but someone studied it, and Thanksgiving meal cost 13% more this year than last year. How can you say 13% is not inflation? Obviously it is. And of course, inflation really means the amount of money, but that is the effect of inflation is higher costs. So I'm going to have a second video on this subject. I hope you've enjoyed it. And again, if you haven't seen the Coming Storm video, there's a link to do so for free right near this one. Thanks.